Gentlemen, welcome back to the Administrative Results channel. Today we're going over a very important rifle. It is the rifle used by a gentleman who was the first person to have his Medal of Honor captured on video. That would be the rifle of John Chapman, an Air Force service member, a CCT, a combat controller. Now, this is a rather important subject. There is some heaviness to it. There are some really cool aspects to it. Ultimately, we are more so a firearms channel, so we're gonna be taking, of course, a good look at the gun itself. To the uninitiated, you may just see another AR-15, and you're not far off from baseline. But to the true believers, you may see a rifle that is very cool and has a lot of significant meaning and heroism behind it. So today, Administrative Results, we're gonna dive on in. Bam! Oh! Just smoked a dude on the toilet who was watching. He wasn't subscribed, nor did he like the video, nor did he leave a comment in the comment section down below. Gentlemen, your comments are a sacrifice to the algorithm gods. Gods that are fighting the big tech censorship of what we got going on here. Sometimes I hear that, oh, YouTube unsubscribed me from Administrative Results. How sad. Nonetheless, I enjoy those comments and I read them when I'm on the toilet, watching my own video back. It's like we're connected. They're a worldwide web of toilets. Okay, so we have to lay down some groundwork for context for the whole shebang. 9/11. Sir, there's been a second plane. That kicks off this whole thing known as the global war on terror, and that leads us to March 4th, 2002, third day of Operation Anaconda. I am not the best at going into the detail of the operation. There are other sources that you can look at. There's the actual footage you can see of this. But essentially, Navy SEAL Roberts falls out of the helicopter and they're going back to get their guy. They land on the ridge, which kicks off this massive gunfight. The reason that we're going over this particular rifle is it has to do with John Chapman himself, at the time a technical sergeant in the Air Force, a combat controller. So what makes the rifle so noteworthy, the actions of Mr. Chapman on that day. He would receive mortal wounds essentially off the rip and then go on to attack the first bunker, taking it out. During that time, he would have some sort of incapacitation for whatever reason. The SEALs would think that he's dead. He would come back to and continue to keep fighting, taking out the second bunker. He would undergo what would be inhuman levels of just fighting and the human spirit. That's why I respect this story very much. I'm giving you the speed run of the story. I heavily encourage you, go check out the full thing. It is a heavy story. It is one of valor. It is one of intense levels of self-sacrifice, and there is some controversy around it with the SEALs leaving him behind, but you know, to me, to speak to that, not having been in the SOCOM world, it's not really my place. I can kind of see where it looks bad with down the road, you know, certain SEALs getting pushed for Medal of Honors over Chapman. Now, what I'm more fascinated about is the general heroism of Mr. Chapman on that day, and it's not to take away from the other guys doing their fighting. It's a crazy situation that they were thrust into. They're fighting hardened dudes, true believers is what they would be called. You got Uzbeks, you got Chechens, guys that are about it. They are not afraid to die. And you're fighting at knee deep to waist high snow, up a mountain, so you're already gassed from the lack of oxygen, and you're getting rained down on by 7.62 by 54R and other calibers from PKMs. It is a terrible situation, and this is all taking place in the dark. So it's a wild circumstance to get thrown into, and John Chapman not only rose to a level, but exceeded all the expectations. Initially, he was awarded the Air Force Cross. Now, down the road, there would be some pushing to get him the Medal of Honor, and in 2018, he would receive the Medal of Honor. He would also be promoted to Master Sergeant a day later after receiving the Medal of Honor, all posthumously, of course. John was the first Air Force member to be awarded the Medal of Honor since Vietnam. Now, of course, one of the biggest deals about this whole ordeal, it is the first Medal of Honor captured on video. So you can see that footage yet again, yet again, yet again. I would encourage you to go watch that. It's a very powerful subject, one that deserves a lot of reverence. Now, the rifle itself, it's very cool to go over because it is a passion project of a friend of the channel, Mr. Otter Weapons Works, who we're gonna hear from in a little bit. What I like about it is the due diligence that went into cloning something, and it means a lot to him too, being a prior Air Force guy. It is a connection to an act of heroism. It is a connection to literal history. This took place over 20 years ago now, which is crazy to think. I know some of you old guys, and Joel's old himself, were serving during this time, and it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see something like that. And there sounds like there's a car coming down the mountain. You got a loaded mag? I will be your guardians. Gentlemen, this content is brought to you by Americana Pipe Dream Apparel, helping to keep the lights on at the channel. They always have a bunch of sick drip on the website. I would encourage you to check them out. Take your milsurp gear to the next level. Not only do they have clothing, but they have a bunch of other accoutrements that will pair well during your big LARP. They have like cool Polish pajamas, some sick Japanese knives. They have a bunch of cool stuff that you need to go check out. They have a slew of Turkish camo. You didn't know that you needed nor wanted Turkish camo, but Americana Pipe Dream has a whole bunch, so you can go and check those out. Now, we also have to give a big thank you to Optics Planet, the optics sponsor of the channel. We're not running anything on Optics Planet from this gun, but nonetheless, typically we are on the channel, so I appreciate them greatly for also helping keep the lights on. All right, I think that covers them all. Now, this rifle is really cool. Of course, sadly, it's not mine. I did not do all the footwork and the leg work to clone this bad boy out, but the friend of the channel, Fat Marcus Luttrell, did. A round of applause for Fat Marcus Luttrell. Now, Joel, what we got going on here, 14.5 Chapman clone, arguably probably gonna be one of the first on YouTube, and probably one of the, there's not a lot out there from what I was seeing.
Kind of my style is I find a rifle or, you know, see a picture, find a story. You featured the Gordon rifle. We did the Sergeant Major Payne rifle. Being a prior Air Force guy, this had to be done. And this one's been in the making for about 3 years now. The hardest part on this rifle was the Knight's Armament 1-inch high rings, just because of rarity and how expensive they are.
Absolutely wild.
They wanted $1,000 for these rings.
Oh so, my gosh.
You know, when clone life takes over, that's what you do, right? So was able to work out a trade, so I didn't spend that kind of money on it. Had got the rail from my buddy Neil at 2AF, proceeded to build it. Pretty much everything else was stuff that I already had. I did have to source the optic, which this optic has been made since the 70s. It's a Leupold Vari X3 1.5-5. It's a commercial scope. Paid about $400 for it. Got it here. Outfitted the gun. I put the Badger Ordnance charging handle latch on there. It was period for the time, and then my signature grip, the Lone Star 2 grip. It has a Geisley SSA just for preference. I did go with a Noveske 14.5-inch barrel. One, I like their barrel's accuracy. True to that time, probably would have been like a SOCOM profiled M4 barrel with like a shaved down front sight post. Mark 11 sights on it, and then like I said, the Knight's rail. PEC 2. Of course, the finishing touch was the Knight's Armament QDSS Legacy and Taupe. That just came in, and so we were able to finish this rifle off. I did a couple things internally. I did the Geisley Super 42 with the H2 buffer, and obviously we saw how reliable it was.
She was cooking, man.
Yeah.
She was absolutely cooking. It is a real pleasure to shoot. I forget how much I love 14.5s.
They're making kind of a comeback. This is like pre-SPR or pre-Mark 12. This was the Recce rifle that you now see today.
It's crazy the high-speed guys, how they're always, it feels like they're ahead of the curve. Like we look back at 93 Mogadishu running those Car 15s, you know, the 723.
Yep.
Those setups, phenomenal. It's crazy to think, like coming back to this, like, okay, you have enhanced magnification a little bit. I mean, the ACOG exists.
Yep.
But this is going up to a 5 power, and it's a weird little preference. I would assume that Mr. Chapman had to buy it himself.
What was explained to me was this, because he was attached to SEAL Team 6, this was what was called a Navy or NSW accurized upper setup. You will see weird stuff coming out of 24th STS where Sergeant Chapman was assigned, as well as DevGru. And so the Navy was notorious for using commercial optics, where the Army went with the government procured optics, aim points, ACOG, stuff like that. So this is really where you kind of see that low power variable optic being used before it was the next cool thing to do. So then, you know, shortly after this, the Mark 12 program, 3.5, 2.5 to 10 power. But this for what he was doing on that mountainside that day. You have a true 1 power, and then you've got 5 power. It's pretty awe-inspiring to see this platform is still relevant.
Very relevant. I mean, if the Axis power of my HOA, my newfound enemy, if they were parachuting into my neighborhood, if you were like, this is the only rifle you can use, I'd say absolutely. I would feel pretty freaking good about it. I mean, a 14.5 Noveske barrel.
It shoots lights out. It's very accurate. I get a lot of questions. I've posted a lot of pictures of this gun before this video, and people want to know about the tape. We found out today, what I surmised, the reason why there was tape here on this lock ring is they do come loose under fire. Yeah. And it came loose today. It came loose, so it gives you a little bit something that you can get, you know, that tangible like textile, so you can grip it in, because this is pretty slippery. And then the tape forward of that was to secure the PEC pad and then wire management. You can see these clearly in the picture of, you know, the pictures that they do have of Master Sergeant Chapman. You can see his rifle, and it's got that military 100-mile-an-hour tape, which I was able to find a roll of that on eBay.
So what would you think would be the hardest part? The scope rings?
Scope rings and the rail. Because Knights does a run of them, I think once, maybe twice a year. You can buy them for about $400. As soon as they hit the secondary market, they're $1,000. So
for the for both?
For just the
rails are going to be like $1,000 in the secondary market.
And then the rings were not very expensive back when they were made 30 plus years ago. Right. And now they don't make rings anymore because you saw the evolution of the SPR mounts and the cantilever mounts. So Knights doesn't make them, and so you can't find them. I've seen other rifles built with something similar like Badger rings or loophole rings, but to find the Knights rings, that is kind of the unicorn piece of this build.
Yes, yes, very impressive. You can hear the metal doing the hot metal thing, you know?
Oh, is it tinkling?
Yeah, it's tinkling. So this is technically the second day that we've come out, ran the gun, filmed with it because we didn't have the NT4 originally. So now that we do have it, it adds a little bit more perspective. We were running what, like a faux NT4
So yeah,
before?
so we had it was like a barrel shroud with a faux, just kind of to get the look, to fill in. And now you were able to shoot it today unsuppressed. And what did you think?
It wields very well. Yeah. It feels really good in the shoulder when it's unsuppressed. That can, man, those things are thick.
Well, and it's weird too, not seeing a vertical foregrip or a hand stop, but where the panels fall, it almost kind of sets itself up for like proper hand placement. Yeah. So like I kind of like that there isn't the vertical foregrip or a hand stop, especially like, you know, on the terrain. If he's putting this on rocks or on something, you're not trying to
it gives you way more options for setting up a shooting platform as opposed to your vertical grip kind of getting in the way.
Getting in the way where you got to lift it over, you can just run the gun hard.
And maybe if you're humping it around the mountains, there could come into that ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain. Right. I would assume tough guys like that wouldn't care though.
Yeah, and like I said, you see the pictures of this, and it's like it's either got the can on it or it doesn't. And I would assume that when you see the can is off, they're probably in that posture where they're in the village, they're not really expecting contact. But then when you see the can on, it's like, I mean, like you said, it's a paperweight.
I mean, the photos of him, he always smash forward. He's just chilling.
Yep,
just chilling out. There. Got the stock collapsed. Maybe it's unsuppressed. Maybe it's suppressed. Really interesting setup.
And the kit too it's mentioned in his book that he was wearing a modernized Rhodesian rig, no body armor due to what they were going to do and elevation. So that's why that first round or second round that he took was a mortal wound, because they didn't have body armor on fighting the Taliban. And the fact that like that rig, you know, goes back to the 70s, it's still showing that it may be an older design, but it's still relevant.
Still holds up.
Exactly.
It carries the stuff you needed to carry.
Yeah, and so like bringing this rifle to life, a lot of guys that I was doing when I was building it were like, I'm tired of hearing about the Chapman rifle, and well, here it is. I'm happy to show it. You did it justice.
I think you did it justice.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah.
It's a really cool clone, man. Yeah. It's a powerful story. The level of heroism, fighting beyond what you think is humanly possible.
Master Sergeant Chapman's story is one that I want to share, and now I've got a visual representation to do that. Yeah. When someone goes, what's that camouflage one? What's that weird looking rifle? You know, and I think it kind of keeps his memory alive. Yeah. And like I said, I think it's something that truly, like you said, it was a passion project. It was really fun to do this build and to do it, you know, and now to show it off to the world.
Yeah, because this thing, it's one of those guns, like I always talk about, AR-15, like the generic modern AR-15. Yep. It's a dime a dozen, right? It's reliable, it works, gets the job done, but to me it's not intrinsically interesting. Now, when you add the context of what went into the gentleman that carried this,
yes,
it becomes a much more powerful story, and it's kind of like it has to be shown off.
Well, and the thing is I was deployed when Operation Anaconda happened.
Yeah.
So being deployed at the same time, obviously in a different capacity, and not really knowing what Operation Anaconda was, it's kind of a cool lineage. I'm just really happy that it was something I was able to complete.
Yeah, I'm happy you completed it too. It's really cool to show it off to you guys. So I would encourage you to go check out Joel. He's probably going to do some more clone stuff in the future. Did you just start a YouTube channel?
Just started a YouTube channel, Otter Weapon Works, just like my IG. It's going to be clone centric to start, and then we're going to kind of go into some stuff that I like scars and platypuses. It'll be up in northern Minnesota, so you're going to see a lot of winter content. So please come subscribe, check it out. Any support from the Admn fans would be great, and I will continue to come down to Arizona, and we're going to do a lot of stuff together in the future, so please check me out.
Autistic Cloners, he's your guy. All right, get out of here.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Godspeed. Now, one thing I do want to harp on is how wieldy and good the gun does feel to shoot and use. So from a practical standpoint, it does hold up to the test of time. The only real shortcomings is just the products of the era. Older PEC, technically there's not a weapon light on there, so you could use a weapon light, make it more well-rounded, and then some more modern glass. It still holds up, right? If I had my night vision throw it on, I still have IR capabilities. Don't really have any passive aiming with this thing, but that's okay. You know, you have everything you want. Maybe you're truly only really missing a flashlight from this build, but if you look back in the day, flashlights back then weren't awesome. Probably the pinnacle would be like the Surefire 660. And so it would be cool to probably throw one of those on there, but it doesn't go well with the clone, right? I'm talking from more a practical standpoint, not necessarily from the clone standpoint. 14.5 barrel, really hard to beat, tried and true. It's just a banger, and they only have gotten better since. When you think about the optic, when you think about 2002, of a lot of the options, I mean, guys would be invading Iraq with iron still, you know, on their M16. So having any sort of magnification to me is always a plus. Yeah, I think is dated compared to what we have now. I got a Night Force 1-8 in the truck. You know, you compare that to this, it's like watching the spacecraft fly by a hot air balloon. That being said, I would still rather have this over having to run irons, right? I think magnification is a massive force multiplier. If you think about the military, how it's always doing the chasing the next dragon of what new next-gen platform to run, what it feels like is they usually always fall back to soldiers need good magnification and more ammo. And you can't really go wrong with that combo, having a bunch of ammo and having a really good sight picture. So all that to say, gun holds up. Gentlemen, I thought this was an important topic. I think it's a rather powerful topic, one that deserves the attention. I mean, we have a very tactile, you can look at it, you can touch it, you can taste it if you're getting weird, representation of history that highlights heroism, ideals and values that I hold high, chances are that you hold in high regard as well. And the topic itself, of course, you know, I think the videos that are out there are very popular, and I think they deserve to be even more popular. I think there was some rumblings that there's going to be a movie made about the subject. There was talks of Jake Gyllenhaal being in it, but I heard he may have backed out. I don't work in Hollywood. I just hope that they do right by the story, if anything, and they do right by all the details, because that was a very hectic situation. Good men lost their lives in the line of duty, and it deserves a good storytelling for it. Gentlemen, John Chapman was not trapped on a mountainside with insurgents. Insurgents were trapped on a mountainside with John Chapman. I appreciate you guys tuning in, taking a quick little look at a clone of a rifle used by an American hero, one worthy of the Medal of Honor, a man that embodies the ideals of the best of us, and that would go above and beyond in the call of duty, a man that we should all strive to be like if we ever so find ourselves in that position. Gentlemen, I got nothing else for you. As always, I will catch you on the flip. Wow, double rainbow. It's storming out and I'm holding a lightning rod. Wow.